Ready? Okay. הרוצה לתרום כליה. Someone who wants to donate a kidney. Person wants to donate a kidney, yeah? לאחד מקרוביו, to one of his relatives. לא עלינו. Someone has a kidney failure, and person wants to donate his kidney for that person, yeah? Okay. Va'aviv monea ba'ado. His father doesn't want him to do it. Okay? So what do you want to do now? You have the Shimon, lo aleinu, has an illness, right? He needs a kidney. Reuven's kidney is a match. It's a match. Yeah? The father says, I don't want you to do it. There is some level of sakana here. So, let's go back. Use our structure, right? Use our structure. If you put it into the core, hardcore, black and white, kibud va'em, he doesn't have to listen to his father. Right, Joe? Perfect. He doesn't have to listen to his father. Why? Because it's not in the category of kavod, which we said is food, drink, shelter, transportation. It's the physical pleasures that a son has to provide to his father from the father's own money. So the black and white kavod angle, we don't have to worry about that because that's not infringed upon if the child, in this case, gives his kidney to somebody else against the wishes of the father. We said, well, what about mora? What about being in awe? What about fear? What about that? Well, you know what? I don't know. Maybe now there is an issue. And what about within the context of mora or awe or fear? What if we slide into lifnim mishurat hadin, doing a little bit more than the halakha commands, which we very often want to do, or midat chasidut? Maybe we're doing more than a little bit more than the halakha demands that we want to do. Right? Now, and then we added, well, let's say we have this notion of tza'ad, right? Of pain that a person is going to be causing his father to not listen. So, from the black and white kavod angle, I don't have to listen. From the awe or mora angle, not sure, but probably not. What about the fact that lifnim mishurat hadin or midat hasidut, which is a real thing, it's not a hayuv, but it's a real thing. And what about the underpinning of all of this, which we mentioned, right, a few times, the underpinning of all this, which is sa'ad, pain. So if I do this, I'm going to cause my father pain. He's going to be unhappy about it. Why? What's his concern, honey?
Health risk for his son.
A health risk for his son. Perfect. So now I have the issue of the health risk for the son. So Joe, what am I weaving into this now? What is Maran bringing?
I mean, there's the main factor on the other side is this is the first time saving life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was maybe money loss, maybe
fantastic.
High.
Very nice. So in this case, the person's life is at risk. And this is the kidney donor. He's the right one. So really, what are we talking about? Should there be a question altogether? You'd say on the surface, what are we even talking about? Why is Maran bringing it up? On the one hand, you have tza'ad. On the other hand, you have pikuach nefesh. So why should we even be thinking about this thing? Okay, let's see. יש אומרים שאסור לו לקנום את קניה עד שאביו ייתן את הסכמתו. What is he saying?
Not until his father agrees to it.
He can't do it unless his father agrees. ויש חוקים. And there are those who are חולק, who disagree, ואומרים שמותר לו לתרום כליה לקרובו. That he can do it, בפרט לבנו או לאשתו, אף בלא רשות אביו. They qualify it. Hi, honey, good morning. Where's Dad? You let him off the hook today?
You know, he loved the class, and he also didn't like the class because it was like a reminder of my grandfather a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
but he loved the class.
Oh, all right.
And it doesn't
Okay.
matter which family member it is.
Very, very nice. Okay, let's see. We're going to get into that. Beautiful. So what he says in the first blush is, Asur lo litrom et klaya ad she'aviv yiten et haskamato. First blush is that a person wants to donate his kidney to someone. He can't do it against the father's wishes. The father is concerned that his son donating a kidney might compromise his health at some point in the future. So therefore, if the son says, Daddy, I want to donate my kidney to someone, and the father says no, we have a Yesh Omrim that says, there are those who say that he has to listen to his father and not donate the kidney. What's the problem with that? You have Koach Nefesh, right? Person needs the kidney, right? We have AJ Gindi dedicated his life to this thing, right? You don't have 12 matches, right? Right? ויש חולקים ואומרים שמותר לו לתרום כליה לקרובו. He can do it to a karov. So 1 second. We're going to mitigate the objection of the father with the fact that it's a karov, who's karov to the father as well.
Yeah.
Right? If the karov, it's a relative to the son, probably a relative to the father, right? ובפרט לבנו או לאשתו. And directly to the son of the donor or his wife. So wait a second, we're going very far here. We're saying in this case that the tzad of the father outweighs pikuach nefesh. How's that possible? Is it possible? I don't know. Right? The pain of the father, in this case, the pain of the father assuming the son gave it, would outweigh the safek pikuach nefesh, the possibility that the person is going to die as a result of not getting the kidney. Banachonhu, Maran says, Nachonhu, she'afsir ba'aviv ayedei rabbanim b'tamidei chachamim she'ashpiu alav latet et haskamato lekach. He says the right thing to do is to send people of influence to daddy to push him to get it done. I.e., if he doesn't want to do it, it sounds like shouldn't do it. Okay, we're going to go into it. More. Achar shebizman acharon. But what does he add here? He adds here to strengthen the point, but it also strengthens the question. Bizman acharon no shachiach sakana al kach b'tumat kliyah. He says in recent times we see that it doesn't endanger the life of the donor. So if it doesn't endanger the life of the donor, what are we doing here? Why do we have to listen to the father altogether? If I have a safek pikuach nefesh, I have a potential threat to somebody's life on one hand, and I have a fairly guaranteed positive on the other hand, and I have the risk that the father's concerned about is not a great risk overall, then what are we even talking about? Listen, Daddy, here's the medical journal. The reality is that there's a 90 whatever percent thing that I'm never going to have a problem with this. And by the way, his life is at risk. So get over it. So, a little strange, right? It's a little strange, right? Because the reality is, what are we talking about? We're talking about tzad. We said that tzad is not really quantifiable. And we said that the real structure of kibbut av v'em is unquantifiable stuff, right? Now we're in the non-quantifiable zone, in the emotional zone, with an area of risk that's documented as not a great risk, and the benefit as being a colossal benefit, right? Aren't we supposed to do everything to save another person's life? Good. So let's see. We'll go into it a little bit here, and he says so. יש בטבע הצלת נפשות כשאין אפשרות אחרת. If I'm telling you that it's הצלת נפשות, is there anything to talk about? So, what do you think is the open-endedness here? Yeah.
I just have an additional question. What if the beneficiary of the kidney was the father?
What if the beneficiary of the kidney is the father, and the father says, "I don't want it"?
I don't want you to be at risk. Well, how does the kibbut av v'em work for that? I want to save my father's life.
It's an awesome question. So the beneficiary of the kidney is the father, right? What obligation do I have vis-a-vis saving the father's life?
Yeah.
Is it a greater obligation than saving anybody else's?
But that's not one of the things within the context of Kibbutz.
Beautiful. It's not one of the things in the context of kibbutz. So let's see. We're going to go.
And how is it not? So, I mean, great that I give him food, shelter, and water, but my father's...
But life is not more important than anything else?
Yeah,
Obviously
it's
more important.
self-explanatory, I feel like.
Okay, so let's see.
Is that a flower one?
I doubt it. הנה בעצם הדבר, אם רשאי אדם להכניס עצמו בספק סכנה כדי להסיר את חברו מוודאי סכנה. I mean, what does it mean? The essence of the question is what? Can a person put himself into safek sakana, a possible risk of life, in order to save someone who has an absolute risk to his life? Right? So we're now going, we started here, we're framing out a little bit. Okay, so what's the general question here, Sion? The general question here is, someone has, Shimon is in a state of pikuach nefesh, nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. This person's life is absolutely dangling, right? Can Reuven put himself into a safek pikuach nefesh in order to help someone who's in a vadai pikuach nefesh? Right? That's your core question. Beautiful. Yeshnam machloket paposkim. Believe it or not, the rabbis argue about it. Maran Bet Yosef katab bagot mamaniyot ha'iri. Ma shekata. Huh?
Perfect guy for this.
Yeah. We missed you. We missed you last few days. I know you're in Brooklyn, but all right, you're cranked up. You're ready. Ma shekatab Rabbeinu over al lo ta'amor adam le'echa. Shekatab Rabbeinu over alav lo ta'amor adam le'echa. B'Yerushalmi mesik she'afil lachnis atzmo b'safek sakana chayav. So he brings Shulchan Aruch to say that lo ta'amor adam re'echa, lo ta'amor adam re'echa means that I have to not stand by if my friend's life is in danger, even if it means putting myself in a safek. In other words, the question here, Eddie, is, can I give my kidney to my friend against my father's wishes? I have a safek sakana against the pikuach nefesh, against my father's not wanting me to do it. So what does the Bet Yosef bring down? He brings it from Hagaot Maimoniot. Ma shekatav Rabbeinu over alo ta'amor adam le'echa. He's quoting, he's referencing the Yerushalmi as well. Shafilu that's nis atzmo b'safek sakana chayav. Meaning what? Pashut, right? Someone, God forbid, the person fell into the pool or fell into the river, right? The person fell into the river. So does somebody else have to jump in to try and save him? Well, 1 second, the person fell into the river, he can't deal with the tide. The tide is strong. Why is he having a hard time? Because the tide is strong. So do I have to go in and put my life at risk to save his life, who's definitely at risk? On the surface it says yes, but you're shaking your head and you're right. On the surface it says yes, but wait a second. I should put my life at risk, go that far? Is that make sense? Let's see.
But there's a way, in
Yeah.
that scenario, there's another way possibly to save a guy. Maybe put out a stick or something. You know, like you don't have to. But with
Probably
the
you-
kid,
I can't put out the stick. You're right. I can't put out the stick. You want me to do it or you don't want? You want me to jump in the water or not? Tell me what you want to do.
But it's not for sure that you're going to save the guy.
Okay, very good. It's not for sure that I'm going to save the guy.
The kidney, you're going to save the guy for sure. The only safek is something
Beautiful.
going to happen to you.
Love it. Beautiful. So now, yeah.
What if it's for sure that you're going to jump in, you're going to die, and you're going to save him?
Fantastic question. Hold that question for a few minutes. No, you know what? Tell me the answer. Tell me the answer. Now, very important. Now, this is a very, very important. Tell me the answer.
I would think the answer is yes, you have to save him.
Absolutely not.
Right. And I knew you would say that.
No, that's halakha.
Yeah.
That's absolutely not. Why? I never put somebody else's life before my own. By the way, why is this? Let's take a little sidebar for a minute. Why is this so massively important? Why is this so massively important that I never ever put anybody before me in halakha? No, he's asking a fundamental question. And it's against Western thought, at least thought. I don't know about practice. But the Jewish perspective is what? I come first, and everybody else comes second. I know. You know why? Because that's 1,000,000,000%.
That's why on a plane you have to take oxygen first before you give it to somebody.
That's the classic example, right? And that's
Man, I'm sorry. Not in the context of Kibbutz Avayim. Remember, you're saying that if God your father, you have to listen to him. You know, I know you in that story of losing your life. You're correct. I mean, it's pikuach nefesh, whatever it is. But listening to your father. So if you,
right, but what the
if
father,
your father, let's say it's not death situation. You know, it's somebody's going to get hurt because he's going to fall, and your father tells you, "Go." Now you might fall and get hurt. You have to listen to your father.
Okay, so let's see. Let's go with an extreme case first. Good. Hold that for a couple minutes. Let's go with an extreme case first, right? Let's say the extreme case over again, right? Somebody is drowning in the water, right? The water, the tide is terrible, right? The tide is terrible. Does somebody else have to jump in to save the person? You have a vadai pikuach nefesh against a safek pikuach nefesh, but the safek is a serious safek. Do you have to jump in? Yeah. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why? Because nobody's blood is redder than mine. Right? We're going to talk about this in a few minutes. Now you tell me, let's jump outside the text for a couple minutes. You tell me what this frames in general, which is completely antithetical to Western culture. And this is one of the elements of Western culture that has, excuse the almost exaggeration, has virtually destroyed it. And we, living in a spectacular country, but a Western country nonetheless, we have to fight this. Give me a practical day-to-day example of this failed philosophy. The failed philosophy says things like, I put other people's happiness before my own. Wrong. It brings on things like rationalizations that are false and phony, where a person, because he has the hook to say something like this, will say, I'm doing it for my children. How many times have I seen husbands who tell me, I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for my wife, and therefore I'm ignoring my wife and I'm ignoring my family. Because of this failed perspective that says, I put somebody else before myself, which is never, ever meant to be true, it leads to people following all types of failed lifestyles based on perspectives that make no sense.
You always say, I'm sacrificing for my kids, I'm sacrificing for my wife.
And very often you're wrong. Very often you're wrong. You know why? Tell me why. And I don't know if anybody remembers it. Many years ago when Stephen Covey came out with a book, you probably read it 6 times, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm-hmm. He's a brilliant guy, and he published this book 30 some odd years ago, and I think it's probably still one of the most read business leadership books, probably still. And what does he write in there? Chapter 2, I'll never forget because it's the hardest chapter to navigate in the book. He talks about depleting your emotional bank account, right? And those are his terms. And what does he say when he talks about depleting your emotional bank account? He says, if I'm doing it all for him, I don't have anything for me to give, right? And that's why in Yahadut, it's absolute, unequivocal that I come first. I come before my wife, I come before my kids, I come before everybody. You with me, Joe? I come before everybody. Now, if I come before everybody, Eddie, what does that mean?
It means I don't jump in the water.
It means clearly I don't jump in the water, right? No question.
You can have interest, give away the interest, but never give away the principle.
Right, never give away the principle. And it also beautiful. And it means that what we need to be doing is, if I need to be, as Stephen Covey puts it, if I need to be a source of love, a source of inspiration, a source of leadership, I got to be full inside. Because if I'm empty, I can't give anything to you. So what happens in Western culture? The Western culture perspective is turn the other cheek. Put the other guy first. And what ends up happening as a result of that is I'm depleted and I become self-hating. And because I become self-hating, I lash out at other people. So what does that mean? It means I have to think about, Ricky, what are your needs? What are your needs? What are my needs? My needs are, I need to be learning. I need it. I could say I need it. By the way, in Judaism, I could say I need it. That's right. It's not all.
Needing it and doing it is two different things.
Very good. Very good. Done not to say need. Right, very good. I told you, in the context of business, never say need, only say want, because when you say need, you're going to fail. In the context of me, what are my needs? I have real needs, right? I have real needs. I don't have a need to make X amount of money. That's a want. That's where it becomes a mistake, right? But I have a need. My need is, I need to, let's say it's learn Torah. I need to listen to a certain type of music that I enjoy. I need to take a walk and this, that. I have a certain amount of things that fill me up emotionally. Those things come first. And then everybody else. Because if I'm depleted, I can't be a good father. I can't be a good husband. I don't have anything to give. If I need, okay, again, we're not going to exaggerate it. We understand that if the need becomes irresponsible, if the need becomes chasing the wrong things, that's where we stop and we say, stop. This is not a need. This is a self-serving, egotistical trip.
They feed you that saying, me first is selfish.
That's right.
Right?
Me first is 100% al pi halacha. 1,000,000,000% al pi halacha, and it's clear with Haimi's example of if it's a raging river and I can jump in and possibility of saving him, possibility of losing me, I don't jump in the river. I don't jump in the river because nobody's blood is redder than mine. Nobody's blood is redder than mine. And on a more day-to-day practical level, if I want to be a loving father, I have to have the love in me. If I want to be a happy father, I got to be happy. There's certain things that I need to make me happy. And guess what? If I don't have them, how am I going to smile at you? I don't have them. And you know why I don't have them? Because I think I'm doing the right thing, because I'm doing everything hand over fist to give to you this, that. And you know what? As a result of that, I don't have anything inside. And you know what that did to Western culture? It made Western culture the biggest murderers in world history. Nobody slaughtered more people, more tens of millions of people than Westerners. Nobody. Because if I put somebody else before me, I become self-hating ultimately. And if I'm self-hating, the one I'm going to take it out on is the one I was supposedly putting first.
So then what about the whole concept of self-sacrifice? How does that...
It's wrong.
But if you look back a generation, right? The next generation wore the fruits of the labor. Let's say your father went built his business, right? But it wasn't him driving a fancy car or any of that stuff. It ended up being the next generation. Same in my family, same in everyone's family.
Okay.
So they
didn't care about themselves?
I don't know.
I don't know. I remember my father. I'm going to say I'm sorry. I remember my father, yeah, he sacrificed.
No, but that was already late in his age.
Did they sacrifice? Of course they sacrificed. By the way, do we sacrifice? Of course we sacrifice. But I would believe, I'd imagine, I never put it in this context, but it's a very strong point.
Creates, I mean, you're right. Somebody that's always just only give it.
He's
angry people.
Angry people, perfect, Joe.
You see the bitter. You
see they're angry. Right.
I guess you always want to point out what you've done for them, and then when they can't reciprocate at that level.
Right. Now you have a thing. What were you going to say?
Just elaborate on the 7 habits of highly effective people. Later in that chapter, he says, I'll take care of me for you, and you take care of me for me. Sorry, you take care of you.
You for me. Perfect. I'll take care of me for you, and you take care of you for me. That's the emet. A person has to be satisfied. A person has to be full inside. we this crazy stuff of I put everything else first and I sacrifice blindly and it's completely against Torah, right? So now this is the perfect case in point, right? You have the son wants to give a kidney, right? He's going to give it to someone to save his life. Why do I even have a question? Why do I even have a question? If it's absolute, no question that you put the other guy first. By the way, in this case, it's pikuach nefesh. So I'm giving you an extreme case to show you how far off other cultures have gone in the context of what should be. Right? I mean, if I even have a question, it's not your case. Your case, beautiful case, right? Can I jump into raging waters? The answer is no. But over here, it's safek. If I give the kidney, it's a safek that it'll compromise the giver's health, the donor's health, right? And over there, it's a vadai, it's guaranteed that the recipient will be helped. Why do I even have a question? The reason I have a question is because I can't hurt myself for other people. And if I'm an unhappy father, if I'm a depleted father, if I'm empty emotionally, if I'm constantly giving to others, that's why I tell people, you know, our rabbis tell us that we should have a few friends, a handful of friends, right? Not a lot. One. If you, chaver, be'emet, one. Maybe if you're lucky, you have 2 or 3. But a friend has to be someone who enriches your life. Right, perfect. Right. I have to work hard to get that person and to keep them.
And take care of him, buy him even.
Right. Right, because he enriches my life. Anybody else is not a chaver, he's a bikol chalim case. So if someone is in my life and they're not enriching my life, I need to reframe that relationship as not an equal relationship of people who are going to mutually share and grow from each other. That's a chaver. That's a person you have to go out of your way to go and to keep, right? I have to frame it as a bikol chalim relationship, so to speak, where I'm the giver, he's the recipient, and I'm not going to get anything back from him, but I should not have people in my life in that sense unless I understand that they're not my chaverim. Because the chaver is meant to be someone who helps and brings me real value. Okay.
So back to the kidney case, what you just said is that you should not give the kidney?
Huh?
The father says no.
The father says no, right? So now we have a question. We didn't answer it yet, but the father said no. So I have a safek pikuach nefesh and a limited safek against the pikuach nefesh with the overhang of my father's disapproval on this thing. On the top level, we saw that you shouldn't do it. She'asur litrom et haklaya ad she'aviv yiten et haskalmato. Shouldn't do it until the father gives his okay. Good. Let's go on. What about, so he brings, let's go back up a minute. The Hagaot Maimaniyot, Mash Katav Rabbeinu, over al lo ta'amor adam ne'echa b'yisham misik shafil la'achnis aso b'safek sakana chayav. He seems to argue with Maran. He says that Lo ta'amor adam ne'echa means if you have to put yourself into a place of safek sakana, of a possible sakana, and the other person is in an absolute sakana, do it. Do it. Okay, but let's see. Okay, so now he brings the Sma and the Rama. Ishmitu din ze v'yesh lomar shemechaben she'aposkim Arif Harambam Barosh v'Atur lo hivi'u. They didn't bring it. And so therefore, let's see, they didn't bring this idea. Ken muva'ah behedju b'sefer Yisov v'eteh she'en la'adam la'achnis atzmo b'sakana b'shvil atzalat chaviro mimita bada'it. He brings down that no, if I have a safek sakana to Reuven and a vadai sakana to Shimon, the person doesn't have to put himself into risk, even if someone is in life-endangering risk. Okay, let's see. וכתב הרדב"ז, ויש ימים שחייב להניח שיקצצו לו עבר בשביל פיקוח נפש של חברו. Says, the Radbaz brings an interesting case. He says, I don't know how this could be, but let's say it's a case, where someone cuts off his arm, somehow, I don't know how this would work, someone cuts off his arm, he's going to save his friend. So he says this is safek pikuach nefesh. People don't die from amputating an arm, right? And people's not going to die from amputating an arm. So why not say that someone would have to take off his arm. I don't know how this would work, but whatever it is, safek pikuach nefesh, in order to help his friend with a vadai pikuach nefesh, an absolute pikuach nefesh. He says, don't do it because you might bleed to death. And if you do it, it's midat chasidut. If you do it, it's lifnim mishurat adin, greater than what you have to do. Shema ayedeh she'achtoch ever yetzeh haber dam v'yamut. Umay chazit, and this is the point that the Gemara brings down. Umay chazit damad havrei somek tefeh. What is that line? Very famous line in the Gemara. Something we should all own, and we should have it in mind for everything. As we mentioned before, we have to be taken care of first. It says, my hazit. Why would you think? Why would you see? Why would you imagine the damad havrei, that the blood of your friend is redder than yours? Is more important than yours? The answer is it isn't. So now we have a little bit of a blurry landscape here, right? We're saying that it seems that we're saying now, based on these sources, that even if there's a safek pikuach nefesh to the donor, he doesn't have to get into that place of possible risk for an absolute risk.
Anybody, if you're a Rasha, if you're, and you have the greatest Gadol Hador, Kohen Gadol, his blood is not redder than yours. You don't save him.
The Rasha, you don't save, or the Kohen Gadol, you don't save?
Rasha, and he's the Kohen Gadol.
I don't know. What would you say?
And he's the one in the water. You don't save his life.
It's a beautiful question. What would you say?
According to what you're saying, no, you don't save him.
Sounds like it.
No one's blood is redder than yours.
Right, but the Gemara does make a diuk on this thing. It does, where it does. I don't want to go there right now, but it's a very important point. So hold it now. Hold it for a little bit. Okay. He calls the person who cuts off his arm that might put himself in that context into safek pikuach nefesh as chasid shoteh. Beautiful term. What does chasid shoteh mean? Huh?
Half stupid.
He's stupid, right? He's someone who's going above the letter of the law stupidly. Joe, what is that a good connotation? Not a good connotation, right? So when we say that if someone is in a place of safek, he puts himself into a place of safek pikuach nefesh, of a possible risk to his life, to save someone who has a probable risk to his life, that's not halacha, that's chasid shoteh. That's someone who's acting in a saintly way, that's stupid. So therefore, going back to Western culture, that knocks it out completely. Okay, let's go further, yeah? The sfekad didei adif mevadai dehavre. Safek didei adif mevadai dehavre. What does that mean? The risk to me is more important, is more urgent than the vadai to somebody else. Why? Because I come first. Come first. Big thing. Radbaz seems to say it a little different. The Masha Katav, he quotes from in a tshuva, the Masha Katav Rambam, Kol hayachol la'atzil v'lo yitzil over alo ta'amor adam re'echa. היינו אפילו אם יש בו קצת ספק סכנה, כגון שרואה טובע בנער, או ליסטים באים עליו, או חייב רעה בעל עליו, שיש בכל אלו קצת ספק סכנה, אפילו הכי חייב להציל. He says, the Radbaz brings down, he says the opposite. He says, ספק סכנה, you have to go in. You see someone who's beginning to drown in the water. You see someone you see these big guys coming that are going to hurt him, right? You have to put yourself in there. The Rabaz argues with what we said so far. He says that if there's a sakana, a pending sakana to your friend, you have to go from a safe place and put yourself into an unsafe place to help him. Goes against what we said. בדווקא בשביל ממון חברו אינו להכניס עצמו בספק סכנה כלל. אבל להציל נפש חברו אפילו במקום ספק סכנה חייב להתחיל. And he brings a Yerushalmi on this also. So we have a machloket here.
How could you be a firefighter?
How could you be a firefighter? Fabulous question.
Different.
How could you be a police officer?
too, yeah.
How could you be a police officer,
That's
huh?
different, it's your job.
But don't choose that
No, but you're
job.
still risking.
No, Jaime's point is don't choose that job.
No, Kohen, Gadol, he has to.
Someone has to do that job.
He's gonna die.
I don't think a police officer is more dangerous than like
No, firefighter.
whatever. a
Firefighter.
field worker.
No?
Meaning you,
Come to the
you
Bronx.
train them, you give them. a
Come to
weapon,
where?
and so many of them
Bronx.
they're
Let's
done.
come to the Bronx. What's that?
Just in modern day times, I don't think it's such a dangerous job.
I don't know how many policemen get killed a year, but it's not zero.
Yes.
Not zero, right? The bigger problem is, that's a different problem. It's a different problem. I was driving once with somebody. He was a off-duty state trooper. We were going over the Raritan Bridge, that high thing that you go before you go onto the formal part of the Garden State. He said, this is a very sad place for me. He's talking about. He says, you see that spot over there? That's where they all jump. I said, who jumps?
Suicide.
He said, the level of suicide in the police force and the state troopers is off the charts. Nobody talks about it. And this is where it happens. Imagine something like that. But you know what? It makes sense. These people are vilified. They're protested against. They're defunded. They're scorned. They're hated. Right? What do you want? No, I'm here to save you. By the way, I'm giving you a ticket because when you drive 89 miles an hour, you're endangering yourself and everybody else. Hate you, curse you. What do you mean? I'm here for the public safety. He really is. So day after day, he gives a ticket after a ticket, and everybody wants to kill him. I don't know. And then who knows what else? Okay.
All right, just a question for you. The person who dies and he donates his organs, because a lot
Very
of time there's a movement that, hey, sign up for this, you got to sign up to donate your organs. If you die, you help other people, but
Right.
you're dead already.
Right. Why should they even be a question?
Against halakha.
Why is it
Not
against
allowed to
halakha?
donate.
Why?
Because you should be buried shalem, even when we get hit.
Right, because we're defiling the body. So it's actually a different thing.
No,
It's
but I remember with Roy Labaton, they had his thing. You sign up, and
To see if you're a
and
match.
no. When you're dead already, they
No.
think your
It's like
heart has
kosher-
somebody.
kosher
Yeah,
organ.
yeah.
mainstream halakha doesn't hold by it, to Eddie's point. Mainstream halakha doesn't hold by it because you're not allowed to defile the body.
That's right.
But over here you're dead, but you're
Right.
saving hundreds
It's a
of people.
different reason. Because you're defiling the body. I would guess, I mean, we should never know, we should never need it. But maybe, I don't know if you could say over time this might change,
That's a
but
big movement. They want.
Yeah.
They give you a card.
yeah, organ
they put you
donors,
on
yeah. They still do it, they do it, in some circles they do
No,
it.
not that one. It's a Jewish organization.
Yeah, Jewish organ donors, yes, they do
Jewish
it.
organization.
Yeah, mainstream halakha doesn't allow it, but yes, there are those who do
The
it.
fact that that this is even a question with the kidney to listen to a father.
It's shunking.
No, but it opens up everything that falls under that. Of course, like
For
your
sure.
sensitivity level.
For
That's
sure
right.
where they're gonna live. For sure.
Wow,
where
oh,
they're
very
gonna
good,
live.
very
It
good.
frames it out. Like,
Beautiful, beautiful, gentlemen. If this is true, that the father could tell the son, don't give a kidney to the Uven, and like that, and this is life-saving, you're right. In terms of the Tzad thing, it blows the whole Tzad thing to the moon.
Something to talk about.
It does not, again, you could close the book now, right? You could close the book. If we're going to hold black and white by this, you're right, right? You're right. If the Tzad that this might cause, but I'll tell you the wrinkle here. There's a wrinkle, and the reason why they're spending time on it is because there is an issue of it being a life-threatening thing. So because the father thinks, why does the father object to it? He thinks his son is going to be less healthy. He thinks his son is going to be at greater risk in his life. And therefore, I'm going to couple the tza'ad with the risk. But if the tza'ad was not coupled with risk of life, like we said yesterday, we wouldn't have to listen, right? We could, from Lifnim Meshurat Adin or Midat Chasidut, but we wouldn't have to, right? From the strict construct of Kibbut Av V'Em.
I was in this situation.
Huh?
My son came to me when he wanted to donate his
Right.
kidney to Ralph, his friend's father. In my mind, I said, there's no way I'm letting you, a 20-year-old kid, to donate your kidney to a 40-year-old guy, you know? But then I said to myself, I said, there's no way he's going to be a match. So I told him, oh, sure, of course, beautiful thing. because you know they have to do the matches. There's a
Whoever
whole
wins the
string.
match, yeah.
So I thought, yeah, go. It's your friend's flower, of course. But I'm telling you, in my mind, I said absolutely not. I would not let. I once divorced my wife because of it. I didn't want him to go. I told him yes, no problem. He got my blessing. Yes.
You told him yes because you thought it wouldn't happen, not because you wanted him to do it.
What's the chances for it to be a match?
Very low.
And whatever, because there was hundreds of people going to even I went to this. I mean, I'm defective, so there's no way I was a match anyway. So I'm just saying so I said there's no way he's going to be a match, and he ended up being a match. You know?
And then what'd you do?
And then when it got all the way to that point, the last thing, my wife was talking to me. I said, I know, but it's my son. You know.
Right.
I love the other guy, Ralph. I love him and everything. But this is my son you're talking about.
Right.
And he's a young, healthy kid.
Right.
And I just shut up and I ate it. And he did it. And Baruch Hashem, everything went through. I spoke to rabbis about it. I spoke to everybody. And it was really bothering me.
Good. Perfect example. So
Not
this
for
is
me.
real.
It had nothing to do for me. It's
Right.
it's
You were
my
concerned about the risk to him.
son. Obviously. Yeah.
Right. You're concerned about the risk to him. Right. So that's our case. So he saved this man's life. Pashut. Right, Pashut. And we know that. Lo aleinu.
I didn't say to man's life. You know what? But I say to myself also, there's got to be another match. That's what's in my.
I know, yeah, but when it came down to the thing, you could have blocked the door and said, "Okay, honey, you're the match, but you're not leaving the building, right?" You could have done that, right? I mean, you could have. And the point is, if you did, but if he had to listen to you or not. That's the question. If you did, would he have had to listen to you or not? The first blush here says that he would have had to listen to you. Are you making the right decision or not? That's something else. But if you're going to tell me there's safek pikuach nefesh, of someone giving a kidney, and pikuach nefesh, right? The safek pikuach nefesh isn't strong enough to say, violate the wishes of your father. And in fact, the fact that there's safek pikuach nefesh makes the tza'ad of your father stronger. In other words, the tza'ad of your father is 1 out of 10, it's a 4, right? It's not a 10, right? We said that. It's not quantifiable. It's not in the black and white, hardcore, structural, material benefits that a person is obligated to do for his parent. It's more esoteric. It's more out there, right? It's more emotional, yeah? So now we're going to say, because the tza'ad is coupled with safek pikuach nefesh, because it's coupled with that, it makes the argument stronger not to do it. Right?
Right.
Because it's coupled with the fact that the person is possibly putting his life in danger. I'm going to put the two together. Now, interestingly, based on what we've seen so far, what's the more important factor here? The more important factor here is putting himself in danger. That's the more important factor. So the upshot right now is, if there's a safek pikuach nefesh versus a pikuach nefesh, right? Generally speaking, don't do it. That's a bombshell. Yeah?
How far? What if? I keep saying this, but what if your father says, "I don't want you to get in the car and go on the highway. You're not allowed to drive to Brooklyn because people die on the highway."
So this is a very interesting question, right?
That's not fair.
It's a very interesting question. Morris is saying like this: what if your father says, "I don't want you driving to deal at this point. You're 19, whatever. I don't want you driving." Right? The highways are dangerous. I want to expand your question for a minute, and then we'll answer your question. Right? Eddie, there was but when my children live in Jerusalem, right? They lived 3 houses over from Rav Shlomo Amar, right? He's a former Rishon LeZion. He's a spectacular giant, Gadol Hador. He was I think he was the Rosh Ha'ir of Tel Aviv, and then he was the Rishon LeZion, and then he was the Rosh Ha'ir of Jerusalem. He's like Cham Vajawa was. He's like Hamud Chayaliyahu. These are beautiful giants, right? He has an interesting psak halacha. And I bumped into somebody walking into shul. It's so interesting that you raised the same point. He has an interesting psak halacha. I see when I'm there, every Shabbat, they bid for the aliyot, right? Every Shabbat, somebody buys maftir and haftarah for him, sends him up to the sefer. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, the fact that you could pray in a shul with the Rishon Tzion, with the Gadol Ador, is really spectacular. Okay. Every time he goes up to the sefer, he says, Hagomel. Every time. Is he flying in and out of the country every week? I don't think so. I went over to him. I said, huh?
I said he lives in a dangerous area.
Okay, let's see. But not everybody else does that. Nobody else does that, right? He goes up to the sefer every week and he says, Hagomel, right? I asked him, I said, what is this about? No, just as a sidebar to, he took my hand and we walked together back to his house, and that's just a beautiful side story on how men like this look in a person's eyes and express their love and are so thrilled to teach. I'll never, ever, ever forget how his hand felt on my hand or how I felt with his eyes looking at me. But he said something along the lines of what Morris saying. He said like this. He said, I don't understand. He brought a number of the Ashkenaz poskim. He says, I don't understand their psak. Their psak is that if a person was in an absolute life-threatening situation and came out, he should say Hagomel, right? No, then a person went to the hospital, to stat, and now became healthy, he should say Hagomel. But 1 second, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved me from the dangerous situation, I shouldn't say Hagomel? You hear the logic?
Oh, only because the doctor did it, you say it. But
Yeah. If the person, God forbid, was in the bad spot, in a critical spot, right? In prison, in a life-threatening situation, he should say it because he was put in the life-threatening situation and came out. Shouldn't someone who was in a potential life-threatening situation and wasn't put in it, shouldn't he express hakarat hatov? Well, listen to this. It's a very exciting
He's
idea.
saying that he wasn't put in a situation where he had to say Gomel?
Yeah.
So therefore he's saying Gomel?
Yes.
So you can't say with Hashem's name.
Very good. He says with Hashem's name. Right, listen to the thing. It's a very exciting idea. We in this community don't hold by it. I asked Rabbi Masselton in the Kollel. He almost threw the book at me. Right? We don't hold it over here. We don't hold by it over here. Cham Yosef doesn't hold by it either. But a Gadol Hador does. But I want you to hear the logic because it goes to the point that Morris is saying. Hear the logic. He says like this. If someone was placed in a life-threatening situation, right? Someone got sick and recovered. Someone was in a car crash and came out okay, right? He says Agomel, right? But if someone was in something fundamentally dangerous, like people driving on a highway at 60 to 80 miles an hour texting, or whatever it might be, they shouldn't acknowledge the fact that they came out of that safely, he says. That's his logic. It's a 10-page teshuvah in one of his books that I went through, and again, we don't hold by it, but he stands up every Shabbat, b'shem u'malchut, and he says Hagomel. And you know what else he does? He says Tfilat HaDerech before he goes to any other place, because he holds that a potential of being in danger, if I was potentially in danger and HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved me from that, that's a big deal. Therefore, to go back to your question, right? Remember your question? Because that was a backfill to describe what danger is. But he says, no. He says danger is you're on a highway with people speeding. Why isn't that danger?
It is.
Huh? It is.
You're only allowed to drive in a car according to Rav Moshe Feinstein because Shomer Petayim.
Right, yeah, beautiful. Explain that point.
Yeah, but
Explain that point.
That driving a car itself is dangerous, and when they first started, they said, how could you even drive in a car and put yourself in a dangerous situation?
Right.
So Rav Moshe Feinstein says that there's the only thing he could find was that Hashem saved the simple. He protects the simple.
Right. So
But you
therefore,
wouldn't be allowed to drive.
therefore you would say, why not? Why wouldn't I say Agomel? Anyway, so therefore, right, what was the question? I don't want my son to drive to deal. Right? I don't want my son to drive to deal. If you're going to hold that being on the roads is safek sakana, right? It's a potential danger. I know. Why is it any different than this? Right? The reality is the son doesn't have to listen according to most, but there are those who say that he does. So let's see. Let's go a little further and then we'll wrap. Okay. Okay. Maran Shlita Herich. He's bringing a teshuvah of his father. Cham Yitzhak's being teshuvah of his father. Chelek Tet, Choshen Mishpat. והביא דעת הרופאים שהסיכון של התורם כליה הוא אחוז קטן מאוד, ולמעלה מ-95% יוצאים מהניתוח בריאים ושלמים, מאריכים ימים ושנים. נראה שבוודאי רשאי לתרום להציל את חייו של אדם מישראל הנתון בסכנת חיים ממש. ומצווה נמי איכא. He turns the thing on its head. He dodges the bullet. He dodges the bullet effectively. He says, if it's safek sakana versus vadai sakana, right? Safek sakana, vadai sakana, sa'ar avi, my father's pain, my father's disapproval, can't do it. But now he says, the reality is that the overwhelming majority of people who give a kidney never have a problem. He makes the point very clear. He says, למעלה מ-95% יוצאים מהניתוח בריאים ושלמים ומאריכים ימים ושנים. What does that mean? They're healthy, they're complete, and they have long and full lives. נראה שבוודאי רשאי לתרום להציל את חייו של אדם מישראל המתון בסכנת חיים ממש. ומצווה נמי איכא. Beauty. Grand slam, right? Now, Chachamim, you're sitting in the Beit Midrash. The 17, 20-year-old young man comes in. He says, Daddy doesn't want me to do it. My friend's father is very sick. He's a 40-year-old man. He's a baby. I'm a baby. Daddy doesn't want me to do it. What do you say, rabbis? What do you say? So Rabbi A says, once again, Safek sakana, vadai sakana. You can't put yourself in the sakana because safek sakana, right? There is a potential risk here. Chacham Moshe says there's a potential risk here. So you have potential risk versus a vadai, but you can't put yourself in potential risk versus a vadai, right? And you couple that with Sad Abba. When you go, you look at the first understanding of Maran, the Radbaz, and so on. You say, shouldn't do it, right? But now you go back and you look at it and you say, 1 second, what is the level of safek sakana? It's really very different than jumping into the river. Jumping into the river, the safek sakana is much more direct and much more threatening, in which case I can't put myself at risk even for the vadai sakana of somebody else. But if we can already assess based on modern medical research and findings that the safek is very, very small, then it's not only that I'm allowed to do it, but it's a mitzvah, yeah.
So, we know that we just qualified the sakana, but what if we qualify the benefit to the receiver of the kidney? Meaning, let's say he was older in years. Does that lessen the chiyuv to help?
What do you say about that?
No,
A very nice question.
You have to prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
So no, but he's saying like this. He's saying, now let's add another wrinkle. Let's say that the recipient of the kidney is at an older age. Do we still have the same consideration, or do we mitigate, downgrade the importance of it because of the person's ex?
Not if the success rate, you said 95%.
Life is life. Hey,
What's the
you gotta
difference?
do it.
You still
Life is life.
Life is life.
Yeah, life is life.
Perfect. Life is life is life is life is life. We don't look at things that way. And here's another thing. No, you know, we have to be very, very vigilant today, because when you go into certain hospitals, you have to look at their coat of arms and their mission statements. And some of them have a clear mission statement, which is, we let the old people die in time. they're not going to give aggressive a thing. No, it's real. It's a real thing.
When my father was in the hospital, the doctor came over to me. Let him go, just let him go. I don't know.
They make you feel bad, and they give you guilt.
Yeah.
Like, how could you
Yeah.
try to keep them going?
Yeah.
Once they're not getting paid for the bed anymore,
Right.
they want them.
They
out of
want
this
to,
world.
yeah. So when we choose a hospital, when we choose a hospital, we have to make this extra effort and say what defines it, because there are different places with different cultures, and it's life and death. It's literally life and death. We are going to give minimal treatment. And to Abe's point, and when the insurance thing runs out, we're going to give even less treatment. So to Sion's point, we who cherish life to the last breath would say, to Isaac's question, regardless of the age of the person, you would say do it. Now, if the person is shliv midah, if the person is, a person with, God forbid, a hole in his lung, or really on the verge of death, obviously, you wouldn't do it, but that's a different thing. Or a treifa, not a shliv midah, more a treifa, you wouldn't do it. Let me read one more piece real quick. Vatan avod don didan, ba'aba oseh b'no ditrom k'diah, לאחד מקרוביו, הנה כבר ביארנו לעיל בראש הפרק, שעיקר מצוות כיבוד אב ואם, הוא בדברים שיש להם נגיעה ישירה לבעל. Right? It's generally speaking, the law of kavod av va'em is something that has a direct impact to the father. Kamo la'achilo, la'ashkoto kadameh, right? To feed him, to provide him with drink. Aval b'sh'ar minei she'en la'av va'em hana'a yeshira, leka chova l'shmo l'kol aviv. If they don't have a direct benefit and you're talking to me in the strict construct of kavod av va'em, kibud av va'em, you don't have to listen. Memela. הוא הדין בדינו דינן שאם האב או האם אוסרים על בנם לתרום כליה לאחד מקרוביו שמעיקר הדין אין צריך לשמוע. מעיקר הדין אין צריך לשמוע. He's reiterating, right? From the core din, we don't have to because we don't have to listen to them because we're not obligated to. We're obligated to give them food and shelter. Ulam, אם הדבר גורם צער גדול להורים. If it's going to cause them a lot of pain, חוששים מאוד לשלומו של בנם אם יתרום את אחד מקלותיו לכל האחר, הנה בזה חייב להרבות עליהם רעים וידידים, שירבו לדבר על ליבם, שיסכימו שבנם יתרום כדאיה אחת להצלת נפשות. We bring people around to convince them. We're aware of their fear. We're sensitive to their need. So we bring people around, rabbis, doctors, whoever's they're going to value, and we say, listen, here's the balance here. Here's the risk. So we even though al pi halacha, we don't have to listen, we do. Right? Because causing him sad, we do. Because the fact that there's a limited risk. But now you add it all together. Case is, Reuven goes to his dad and says, Daddy, I want to donate this to Shimon. His father can say no, and Reuven cannot do it al pi halacha because his father said no. On the other hand, if Reuven wants to do it, he has to be concerned about his father's feelings, even though his father's feelings are outside of the black and white context of Kibbud Av Va'em, and therefore he should bring other people to make the father more comfortable. Now, bottom line, gentlemen, rabbis, you're sitting in the midrash, and your student or somebody comes over to you and he says, "What should I do?" He says, "What should I do?" What do you want to say?
In this case, because the risk to him isn't life-threatening in most cases,
The risk is not life-threatening, right?
you should do it.
Right. So Cham Yitzchak would say, yeah, do it. Do it.
I still have a problem with that.
Huh? So you would say what?
I don't know. It's we framed here such a powerful relationship of the father's word and what he's asking from a child, and once you now start looking into halakha to now slice it and dice it,
Right.
so maybe you can do this to anything.
You're right. Right. The easy out here is we have pikuach nefesh. I gave you an easy one.
Right. Okay.
Right.
so-
This is an easy
Yeah,
one.
so
We're
this
going to
is-
get into harder ones, but again, we're building the scaffolding, right? So because we have pikuach nefesh here, it's sort of we sort of found a license. But to your point, you have Amid the Smoke to say, don't do it, you have Amid the Smoke, for sure. For sure.
And then your kids look at you and say, oh, he didn't listen to him on something so big, so my little thing, I don't have to listen either.
Right, you could say that. You could say that. So that's why we brought all the variables. You have Pikuach Nefesh, you have Safek Pikuach Nefesh. The Safek Pikuach Nefesh, the possible threat is a very limited possible threat, which would mean the halacha might be different 50 years ago. Where 50 years ago the process was much less refined, then you would have to listen to your father and not do it, because Sa'ad is not a primary responsibility between father and son, A, and B, there's Pikuach Nefesh here. There's a fake Pikuach Nefesh. Today, and what he brings down in Yahaveh Da'at is, in Yabia Omer, what he brings down in Yabia Omer is because he's going to push it over the top with the fact that the Pikuach Nefesh is very limited. But if the Pikuach Nefesh was greater, if it goes to Morris's point, and we'll wrap with this, the father could tell the son, I don't want you driving on the highway. We had an interesting thing. A handful of years ago, they called me up on a thing. They wanted to do a senior thing in Deal one night in June. Okay, so in terms of what was going to go on, there was nothing problematic in go on. But what are we doing with these 17-year-olds driving to Deal at night? What's going on here? What is going on here? Is that not? I don't even safek pikuach nefesh. Maybe it's pikuach nefesh. We're going to have 100 17-year-olds driving to Deal at night? What are you talking about? That's outrageous. So I called up the parents. I said, this must stop. They said, what do you mean? They're good kids. We're going to have chaperones. I said, I'm not doing that. You're going to have chaperone in every car? What's going on here? You want to do some type of celebration? Do it where the kids are. Do it in Brooklyn. So these are some of the considerations. And Baruch Adonai L'olam, amen v'amen. Shem yishmor.